Make no mistake, in tomorrow's midterm elections, yes, the issues will be the inflation problems and the gas prices and supply chain issues and national security issues and just the malaise in this country surrounding our economic problems. But understand something. The concerns over transgender policies in our schools and how it's affecting our children and how it's separating parents from their children, it's there and it's real. And that's why I want to draw more attention to the incredible series of videos coming out of Independent Women's Forum called Identity Crisis. Watch this.
I think one of the things a lot of kids today are not taking into consideration is if you transition, you can never fully change sex. So I knew that if I attempted to transition, I would be a 5'2" man with a vagina. That did definitely deter me for a long time. But then the narrative that I was hearing from trans activists and even medical providers was that if I didn't transition, I would probably kill myself. And given that I was someone who had already suffered from mental health issues in the past, I didn't want to risk that. I thought medical transition was my best option. At the age of 28, I just felt like I didn't have another choice. I tried being a woman for so long and I wasn't happy. So I decided to go full steam ahead with my medical transition.
This incredible series of mini documentaries can be found at Independent Women's Forum. Again, the whole series is called Identity Crisis, and it's the brainchild of director-producer Kelsey Bolar, who joins us now. Kelsey, thank you again for joining us.
Hi, Larry. Thank you for having me.
I want to emphasize that the reason why this is such an effective series is you focus on the human beings involved here, the individuals, like in the case of Kat Cattinson right there, the doctors who are stuck in this system, the parents who are being separated from their children. These are human stories, and I think oftentimes, even on the conservative side of this equation, we often get stuck into this, fist shaking, yelling, trying to win an argument, and we forget these are very vulnerable, fragile human beings at play here.
Absolutely. That's precisely the goal of this project, to tell personal stories, to humanize this very sensitive and complicated issue. What might be surprising to hear is that despite just telling these individuals' personal stories, this entire series has faced a massive amount of censorship by big tech, which is essentially telling the public that, despite this just being Kat Cattinson's story, you don't have the right to tell it. We're going to not allow you to promote it. Of course, we know when the other side tells their stories, celebrating children supposedly transitioning, those stories have a massive, massive reach. They're able to advertise them far and wide. That's not the case in this regard. Larry, I do appreciate you bringing attention to this series because it is so important. We have an honest conversation and debate about this issue to understand the different ways that gender ideology is impacting Americans, young and old.
Yeah, and the Kat's story, we're going to get into it a little bit more and show some more clips from this video. But what struck me watching this is that pressure she was under from people within the transgender community, from doctors, from psychologists. She was 28. Forgive me if I'm wrong. She was 28 when she went through this transition. Imagine what it's like for a 12-year-old girl.
Well, this is precisely why parents are having conversations with their school boards, with teachers, with the public at large about why this is such an important issue, why it's not just being nice when you're using someone's supposed preferred pronouns behind the parent's back, because all of these decisions carry medical implications. When a child goes down the path of a social transition, which a lot of people think sounds harmless at the time, well, I'll just use the preferred pronoun, I'll use this new name that this child wants. What many of those individuals don't understand is by doing that, you are very likely putting this child on a path of medical transition, of moving on to cross-sex hormones that are not FDA approved for this purpose. And any parent who goes down the rabbit hole and does even the most basic research on this issue will understand the side effects that these cross-sex hormones carry, that puberty blockers carry for their children. And so that is why it is such a deeply personal and motivating issue for so many parents, for so many voters. Of course, I agree with you. Inflation, national security, these are issues driving people to the polls. But the issues of gender ideology are impacting families firsthand.
Yep.
And parents are saying, we want a say. We want to be in the know about what's happening with our children in their schools.
And listen, I'm a partisan. Everyone knows where I stand politically, and I don't hide it, and I don't pretend to be unbiased here. That I swear to the Almighty, I wish this weren't a partisan political issue. Why this has become a Democrat versus Republican thing, this is a human thing. And let's talk about this medical transition, as you put it, because the first step of medical transition, as you say, are these puberty blockers and cross-hormone therapies. Kat Cattinson, the subject of this video that you produced, I think it was released a couple of weeks ago, she had a 30-minute phone call with a doctor from Planned Parenthood, and boom, she was given the prescription. Not even a physical examination, it was just a phone call.
I had top surgery scheduled as well, a double mastectomy. To obtain permission for that, I also talked to a different doctor at Planned Parenthood who, again, without meeting me, had written me a recommendation letter for top surgery. But when the testosterone just had such devastating effects on my life, I realized it might not be a good idea for me to make any more permanent changes for now. So I ended up canceling my top surgery, and I also canceled my legal name change, which I'd already turned in paperwork for that.
Yeah, and so real fast, the testosterone prescribed after just a phone call, now something as drastic as a double mastectomy set in motion without actually a physical examination, just a phone call. Again, thank God this is a young, fully formed woman in her late 20s deciding, whoa, let's pump the brakes here. Kelsey, this is devastating to watch.
Larry, this isn't a unique case. Sadly, I'm actually in the process of reporting out a very similar story about a girl getting approved for cross-sex hormones and top surgery on her very first appointment with a so-called gender specialist. And yet, in this case, this girl was under 18. So I think the medical community is trying to claim they are safeguarding children in some way, that you have to go through these very involved therapy sessions in order for them to prescribe these cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers, and even irreversible surgeries.
Yeah.
According to my reporting, according to these personal stories, which you can see them with your own eyes, they're impossible to dispute. That is not what's happening. That is not the case, which puts parents in a very difficult position where if their child is struggling with these mental illnesses and they want to go seek a therapist or a counselor for help, they don't feel safe doing so,
right,
because doctors are just so easily prescribing these irreversible treatments, if you can even call them that. And they feel very isolated and alone.
Yeah, and let's get to this because obviously the double mastectomy is irreversible, but they keep lying to us saying, oh, the hormone therapy, it's just a pause. You can always reverse it. Watch this.
Since stopping testosterone, my voice isn't as high and girly as it used to be, but I can still kind of sound like two different people if I try.
Wow. So her voice is irreversibly changed now. She sounds, if she wants to, she can sound like a man.
Yes, and Kat is actually a semi-professional singer, so this has massive implications in her life, and that is just one of many lasting side effects of testosterone for young girls. Others include hair all over their body. Other detransitioners are having to get multiple rounds of laser hair removal to remove male-like hair growing all over their bodies. They face internal issues as well. Vagina atrophy, which has physical implications for their everyday functions and also their sex life, their ability to reproduce. And so the idea, the notion that cross-sex hormones are reversible is just not the case. If you talk to any of these young women who have been on them for even just a couple months at a time, they are dealing with very serious lasting implications. And again, this is what parents are so concerned about. Nobody wants this for their child. The transgender path is a very difficult path. It is not a path that we as a society should be encouraging and cheering on children to go down.
Kelsey,
it's tragic.
Kelsey Bolar, literally doing the Lord's work at Independent Women's Forum. I commend the entire series to you, Identity Crisis. Watch these videos. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.